After Tops, the next mass shooting was in Uvalde. The big celebrity was Matthew McConaughey. Guess how many days after Matthew McConaughey's birthday the mass shooting was? It was 201 days. Then, on the anniversary of the Tulsa race riots, you had another mass shooting. That was 201 days after Arturo Sosa's birthday. And if you don't know the name Arturo Sosa, that's the Black Pope. That's the leader of the Jesuit order. And many historians have written for centuries that the Black Pope is the most powerful man in the world. After the Tulsa race riot shooting, then we had the Columbia machine shooting, like the District of Columbia, 201 days after Biden's birthday. And you know when the first gun control legislation came in this nation's history? It was 1968, that infamous year, 201 days after the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. And for those of you guys who don't know the sick joke of the killing of MLK on the 95th day in 1968, you must know that Martin Luther was not his birth name. It was Michael. He assumed the name Martin Luther after the Protestant Reformation leader who wrote the 95 Theses to shut down the tyranny of the Catholic Church. So go figure that Martin Luther King Jr. ends up getting assassinated on the 95th day in 1968, April 4th, 5 years to the day of the opening of the World Trade Center. Have you guys ever thought about how MLK was killed on 4/4? Before I make that point, please look into the speech MLK gave a year to the day of his murder. If you guys do not know, MLK was blacklisted from the media, denounced by Lyndon Johnson, his own friends, many politicians, talking heads. They said Martin Luther King Jr. had become a traitor to America because of what he said April 4th, 1967. He spoke the truth and he was censored just like everybody today who speaks the truth is being censored. MLK said on April 4th, 1967, "It's a time to break silence." He said, "The evil of this nation is the military agenda and the empire and the fact that we send our young people off to murder innocents all over the world, and then they bring that hatred back to this country. And then they bring that hatred into their own families. And then next thing you know, you got broken families, you got drug addicts, you got homeless people.
And I lost my spot.
You got sacrifices, you got unnecessary death and killing. A year to the day of his speech beyond Vietnam, a time to break silence, this man is murdered. And he said those who remain silent against evil are part of that evil. And that's my biggest problem. That's actually what I've been thinking since even before I heard his speech. Just the way we march along to obvious lies from 9/11 to pretty much everything they shove us. Why are we so indifferent to evil? Is it that we're selfish? Is it that we're afraid? Again, for the people passing by, I want you to think, are we really the land of the free, the home of the brave, like we learned in our 13 years of slave school, pledging to 13 stripes based on the 13 colonies? Are we really free? Are we really brave? I want to thank the people hosting this event for allowing us to speak. They asked me to wind it up, but the one thing I want to say to the speakers of this event is they better sharpen their knowledge and stop regurgitating 20-year-old information that isn't changing anything, and they better stop counting on the courts to come save us. I was just telling you about 201 and the Jesuits. Look up the father of the Constitution, James Madison. His name equals 201. The first Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, Chief Justice John Jay, his name equals 201. Did you just disconnect? Please don't disconnect. Okay. And here, I got to give you this before I get off.
Hey, let the other guy speak.
I will in 1 second, but since Roe vs. Wade's so current, I don't like your attitude, by the way. I don't feel like you're about the truth. But I'm going to finish one thing. Roe vs. Wade. Roe vs. Wade. I want you to understand what they just did. I want you to think about it. The name of the case was Jackson Dobbs. And after they overturned it, you saw what the news media said. They said this is going to impact black women the most. What happened a few days later? We just happened to get the first black female Supreme Court justice, and her name was Jackson. Now, guess what? When Stephen Breyer announced his retirement earlier this year, it was 201 days before his birthday. And then they nominated Ketanji Brown Jackson on February 25th, 201 days before her birthday. The name of the case that just overturned Roe v. Wade has a gematria of 201. So does the full name of Mr. Dobbs in the Dobbs-Jackson case. This man says find a way to wind it up. Let me wind it up this way. 1 week before Roe v. Wade was overturned, our federal government approved the vaccination for 6-month-olds. 6-month-olds. Again, Event 201 was the simulation to bring about this pandemic where they simulated rushing out vaccines. And by the way, watch the Clade-X and Event 201 coronavirus simulations. In both, they rush them out that do more damage than good. Clade-X was also 666 days before the pandemic was declared, like the mark, which you must have if you want to buy or sell. And everybody should get that in light of what's going on in these times. But again, the vaccine, the face of that right now is Bill Gates. William Henry Gates, his name in gematria is 201, also a main co-sponsor of Event 201. He is into eugenics. Listen to his 2010 TED Talk, 2010, where he talks about why we need to reduce population. I want you to think about the new jabs they have out there. They've told us that it involves fetal material from abortions to develop the vaccines. What's Bill Gates' father's legacy? Planned Parenthood, big on eugenics as well. It's a long trail of 201, you guys, from the beginning of this country up to the present. And that's why it's a joke to think that we're ever going to get justice from our courts and our system that was made to always control and rule over us. I got to close with one more thing based on what the man before me was speaking. In 1968, one more time, World Trade Center construction began. 911 was made the national emergency dialing code. George W. Bush graduated from Yale and Skull and Bones, and a lot more things connected to that day. But also in 1968, that was the year fentanyl was approved by the FDA. It was also the year coronavirus was coined, and it was the year of the first HIV case. But coming back to fentanyl, that's a product that comes from poppies and opium. And what did we do after 9/11? We went into Afghanistan, the biggest producing country in the world of poppies, and we murdered the Taliban. And what didn't the Taliban want in their country? They didn't want poppies because they know opium was destroying their own people. We've gone into that country and we've restored the opium production, and it's booming. And now across this world, you have people addicted to heroin like never before, fentanyl. You have suicides left and right, people dying from overdoses left and right. R.I.P. to Prince, who said, "I would die for you," and spelled it with the number 4 and the letter U. Well, U is the 21st letter, and he died on 4/21, on the Queen's birthday. And R.I.P. to the Queen, who just died 201 days after being diagnosed with COVID. That is your lesson in how counterintelligence works. And by the way, counterintelligence, the CIA, it was established on the 201st day of the Pope's age.
Got him. Got him.
Woo! If you think this stuff's a coincidence, come talk to me, because I got free t-shirts that say "Coincidence Theorist" on the front, and I'm a fucking idiot on the back.
Yeah.
Lift it up.
Thanks a lot.